Hi, this is Melissa from Ad Infinitum, and you're listening to Interview Under Fire.
All right, everyone, I'm going to welcome you all back to a new episode in the 11th season of Interview Under Fire. I want to give a shout out to all our listeners around the world. Thank you again. We would not be here today without your support. It truly means everything. Now, as always, this is Sunny here, back once again. And today I have the honor of speaking with an immensely talented front woman in Melissa Bonny. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day for joining our IUF series. You know, Melissa, this has been a busy yet exciting time of the year for you and the rest of the guys over at Ad Infinitum with the release of your latest album, Chapter 2, Legacy, which recently dropped here on October 29th through Napalm Records. And I want to start things off by, commending you on all the well-deserved recognition. I mean, this has been getting so far. Shout out to the other publications like Sonic Seducer, and Metal Hammer, to name a few, who have praised your work. There's just, so much to discover about this beautiful record and who you are all about. But before we get to all that, let's take a deep breath, right? I mean, everything's kind of been moving at a fast pace in the last 10 minutes. We talked about it before the interview started. I feel like, we're nearing normalcy in most parts of the world these days. Two things, how are you? And how's life over in Denmark in 2021?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to talk to you. And also thank you for your nice words. It really means a lot. Life is actually pretty good right now, even though, not really back to normal yet, but in Denmark, it feels pretty normal right now, with almost right now we have zero restrictions. I think we will get a few more now because of flu season coming, but it's pretty okay right now. How is it for you?
It's I think it's obviously here in the States. I'm sure you've seen the news. Everything's kind of just turned on its head. We don't know. Things are starting to open up here a lot. Actually, tours are opening back up. We just covered the metal tour of the year, obviously, with Megadeth and Lamb of God. I'm sure you've seen that on the social media, which was great. I didn't know what to do with myself. Like going back to a show again, looking around, like all these people. I'm like, wow, it's pretty crazy. Of course, there's that nervousness, once we enter, obviously, you said flu season and everything else in between. Hopefully we can keep the momentum going in 2022, but it's also important to know that even though here in the States things are starting to open up, right? So we got to remember that there are different parts of the world where there's still lockdowns happening. So I think we're slowly but surely going to come out of this, but I'm okay. I'm glad you're okay. And obviously, with this new record here, Melissa, I want to wind the clock back to a couple of years, to maybe 2018, maybe even before that, because for fans and listeners who may not know, if you could just briefly talk about that moment in your life that led to the inception of Ad Infinitum with you, Adrian, Corbinian, and Nicholas, into what it is today, because you've been on quite the journey. How did you four come together in the end?
Well, it's so funny because yesterday I took really a time to realize that everything that happened with this band happened during the past 2.5 years. And I was like, wow, this moment where you're like, wow, this feels like much more. Basically, this was supposed to be a solo project, and I just released one song in 2018 to do a crowdfunding campaign because I couldn't finance the whole thing on my own. And end of 2018, the project was financed, and beginning of 2019 Nick joined and he brought Adrian, and then first we had another bass player, Jonas, who had to leave us, and now Corbinian is replacing him, and I mean, we released the first album in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, and first we were so devastated. We thought, oh, this is it, we cannot promote our album, it's gonna just go to not be good.
There's no like schedule to release an album during the pandemic, right? But you guys did it.
Yeah, but we thought that it would just, be released and then nothing happens and then no one talks about it anymore. But we turned it around by releasing more videos, more online content, and by releasing also an acoustic album and a show on YouTube. And then we just kept going with the second record, and actually this benefited the band in an awkward but very good way, actually.
Yeah, and I've seen the result. It's weird thinking like the last, what, 3 years technically, 2018. Like most of that was during the pandemic. That's
Yeah.
you get to say, you get to live the moment, you get to tell about this story in the future. It's like, hey, we're a band that released this content during the pandemic, and look at us doing what we're
Yeah.
doing. I think it's definitely
Yeah.
something to take pride in. Making the best of the situation. That's another way to put it. Now,
Mm.
even though Ad Infinitum got its start in 2018, Melissa, you've been at this for a while, whether it's with Ad Infinitum or Maleficum or the Dark Side of the Moon, Rage of Light. I mean, you've been at this for a while, and I'm talking about. I want to mention the touring life. We kind of talked about how touring's kind of opened up lately.
Yeah.
I know you've done some extensive touring throughout your career. I think you guys also just played at the Rock Castle
Yeah,
not
we
too
did.
long ago. I mean, what is it, about performing live that you love the most, or maybe even miss the most, before hitting the stage again? Do you
Mm.
have a newfound appreciation about it now, considering what's been happening in the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, when we finally got to play at Rock Castle after, almost two albums, like we were about to release the first single of the second album, uh, you appreciate things like this much more because it's been taken away from you. And just the fact that you are playing your own music on stage and you have the direct response from the crowd, because it's very different when you put a song out there on YouTube and you read comments versus playing it on stage for the first time and seeing the response of the audience and seeing them jumping around, etc. It's just so beautiful. And what I like the most about touring, I think, it's like, it's a little bit like, it projects me back to these cool years when you go on a trip with your friends and you sleep all at the same place, and it's this summer camp feeling that I have when I go on tour somehow, and also, of course, performing every night and meeting people.
Yeah, and you haven't been to Texas yet. We talked about it before and restarted. So hopefully a
Mhm.
North American tour here is in the near future. Now, I watched
Yeah.
those clips over at Rock Castle, and I think one of the cool things about you guys is what makes Ad Infinitum is the live presence that you guys put on stage. I mean, you knocked it out of the park. I mean, everything I heard from this new album, even Monarchy, was like, it is exactly what I heard on stage. That from the
Yeah.
studio aspect to the live presence, you guys are such a tight band live, and I really appreciated that. So
Thank
here's
you.
here's the live performing, here in the near future. Now, let's get to the second album because we talked about everything except Legacy. Chapter 2, it dropped on October 29th on Napalm Records. I want to repeat the words here. Second album, Melissa, before we get into the core of Chapter 2, because this is the follow-up to 2020's debut, like you mentioned, Monarchy, Chapter 1, which I feel like that album really put you guys on the map for not only symphonic metal, but heavy metal as a whole, because I feel as if Ad Infinitum is giving this genre we love so dearly a breath of fresh air. I mean, it was a success,
Thank you.
as far as the reception is concerned. We talked about it. Here we are with the new year, new album, new chapter in your life, really. Was there any such thing as pressure for you, Melissa, when you decided to sit down and write again for a new album, considering this is the sophomore slump, right? We hear that so much throughout the musician's career. It's like, has that ever creeped into your head, or was it just like, you know what? I got my debut album out there. Screw it. I can do whatever I want now.
No, no, no. We had so much more pressure because, when you release the first album, people have no expectations. When you release the second
Hmm.
album and the first one has been successful for, the size of the band we are, yeah, you don't, you just tell yourself every time you're working on it, we have to do as good or better. And this was a challenge, especially because we work differently as well. We, the first album, like I said, I started it as a solo project. So I started writing the demos on my own, and then I worked with a producer who was helping me with the instruments I couldn't play. And then the guys joined me, and they also contributed to this first album, but in another way than the second album. Second album, we really started writing the songs from the beginning until the end all together without a producer. So we didn't have this person with experience to tell us go to that direction or that one, or you're drifting away, be careful. So there was more pressure. And also we worked with Elias Omlid for the orchestrations, and that was also something new. And we were like, okay, now we have to make it work with new elements. And in the end, I think we worked much harder, and that the result is something that we're even more proud of.
And I want to piggyback off of that because this is also self-produced.
Yeah,
I also want to, aside from Elias, I want to mention a shout out to Jacob Hansen as well, because
of course,
yeah,
of course.
he took a part in the recording your vocals, and he's also known for his work with Volbeat, Epica, and Amaranth. And we had the privilege to speak with Simone and Elise from both of those bands, and they're amazing people.
Yeah.
You're talking about. I mentioned the self-produced. What was the deciding factor on self-producing a record? And I mean, you talk about pressure, right?
Yeah, I mean, we thought, first of all, I think it kind of happened naturally because we started working all together. And the reason why I started working with a producer in the first place was because I wanted it to be a solo project at the very, very, very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have the skills of a guitar player or a drummer or an orchestrator or whatever. So I needed someone to guide me. This time we thought, but we have all these talents in the band. Everyone is very much trained and skilled in his own instrument.
Yeah.
So why not trying at least and see if we are able to put it off on our own? Because it was also, to prove ourselves that we had the skills to do it.
Yeah, and the sound was very sharp. It was on point. It was not overproduced. Like that was a big part of this record that I really liked. And I'm an audiophile these days, Melissa. I'm very picky on how I want my music to sound, the way I want it to sound.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have to mess with any EQ levels. Now I'm just gonna put this out there because I want you to hear it. Because from songs like Reinvented to Inferno, Afterlife, My Justice, Your Pain, that's my favorite actually, all the way to Lullaby. With this album, this is quite the follow-up, and you guys as a unit have expanded on your musicality, and by that I mean fusing your trademark symphonic and orchestral sounds. But by the way, I'm a violinist, so I really related to that. With the heavy riffs, there were catchy hooks. It was mesmerizing melodies within your compositions, retaining that heaviness in there too, and your vocals. Good God, I mean, when I mentioned that breath of fresh air, that's you. You really went above and beyond again with your vocals, from switching between the harsh and the and the cleans. It reminded me of bands with but like Within Temptation, Beyond the Black, even some Opeth in there. I don't know if you've heard that before, but you have this identity and you're growing with it. Now, this is a lot. That's technically my short review, but between writing and structuring the songs and the production process, keep this all in mind as I'm asking this, because the lyricism throughout Chapter 2 Legacy, people who don't know, because the origins of that center around inspirations of a historical figure of Vlad the Impaler, who's also known as Dracula. The Halloween was just last week, and they this historical figure inspired the themes and the questions of this album. And I mentioned the handful of singles that you released prior to the album drop, but Melissa, to what level do you like to have a theme or concept for your music, and how important are themes to you? Is that more about helping you write or sound, or is that more for the audience? Because there are artists out there who don't really care about themes, right? They just do like 10 songs in the studio and that's it. Mm-hmm. But I felt like Ad Infinitum, you really wanted to get that message across.
Yeah, I think that for me it's both, like it's a work that is interesting because when we pick the character who's going to inspire the lyrics, I learn a lot. Like I go through documentaries and readings and sometimes movies, or everything that can help me understand the life of the character and the people around that person. So it's very interesting for this reason. And also, I feel like there's much more to say about a character like this than about my own experience in life. And of course, I use it when I write lyrics, like, for example, a song like Unstoppable or Breathe. There's a portion of it that is my own experience and my own feelings. You know, when you write a song, there's a part of, like, if you want to heal something inside, writing it in and creating a song is a very good way. But there's a lot of songs where I feel like I wanted to transmit my own understanding of the life of someone else, because that life has been much more meaningful than my life so far, in, like, on the entire world, I mean.
Yeah.
So I think it's also a way to make it different from one album to another, to change the theme, so it doesn't feel like, oh, she's talking again about this, I don't know, love story or whatever, you know.
Yeah, but that's another aspect. Again, I'm talking about like all the things that I really loved about this album, and I feel like symphonic metal can get a little repetitive over these days, you know, especially today. But you guys really just, like, every song stood out from one of from, like, every song complemented each other. That's the one way I would put it, because it was over in a blink for me, and I had to go back and listen to it again and again and again, and it was just like, wow. So much great music has been released this year, and yours is one of them. Now, Melissa, we're at the end of our interview here, so we got some time. I mentioned that surprise, right? I know you're looking forward to it. So what I'll do,
of course,
it'll be fun. It throws all my guests off, but they love it. I'm gonna do something fun here. I'm gonna do something called the lightning round. All right, what I'll do, I'm gonna go down the list. I'm going to ask you a question, and you just have to think quick on your feet. You have to pick one or the other. Okay.
Okay.
All right. No sweat. I think you got this. All right. Some of them are just really fun questions. Some of them are just downright crazy, but I think you'll like it. All right.
I love it.
Here we go. Now, I mentioned you're originally from Switzerland. What's the capital of Switzerland?
Bern.
Okay, I never know if it's Bern, Zurich, or Geneva, because there's no specific capital, so I don't know if that was a trick question or not. All right, so you're good. All right, red or blue?
Blue.
Vegan or meat?
Meat.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Harry Potter.
Who's your favorite character?
Hermione.
Mexican food or American food?
Mexican.
Okay, a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you on the road?
11.
That's awesome. If there's a spider in your house, do you kill it or set it free?
I burned the house. No, I said it free.
That was a good answer.
I can.
That was pretty good. Okay, country or pop?
Pop.
All right, Halloween or Christmas?
Halloween.
Okay, I feel like Halloween kind of makes Christmas exciting because it comes before Christmas, but that's my opinion. All right, Los Angeles or New York?
It's hard because I've only been to New York, but I'm excited to discover Los Angeles, so I would say Los Angeles.
Okay, yeah, I was in LA just last month. All right, chapter 1 or chapter 2?
Chapter 2.
Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
A fruit.
If Voldemort offered to give you a hug, would you accept? See, these questions are getting ridiculous.
Of course.
Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Every language in the world.
I've had some people who say, well, I can talk to my cats, so I guess every language in the world. So, but I don't know. Talk to animals would be also cool. All right. Okay, this one's interesting. This one is always interesting. There's a time machine in front of you. It says the destination is Woodstock 99. Do you take the trip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that
documentary?
Have you seen that documentary on HBO?
No.
Yeah, it's, you know, Woodstock 99, like all these, it was a crazy weekend in New York, but you know, there's so much happened. There's like fires and riots and all that. And I was like, guess what asked me, well, if I had a VIP pass, can I go still? Or, you know, because it's like, would you like go see because it was a staple moment in music history. All right. If you weren't a musician, what would you be doing right now?
Acting or detective?
Oh, awesome. I actually went to film school for 3 years, so that I can relate to that. Melissa, this has been an honor. Thank you so much for all this. I know like you did pretty well. That's probably one of the best, like quickest lightning rounds I've ever had because you
Oh,
actually did, because I've had so many people be like, they ask me a question back. It's like, no, that's not the way it works. Anyway, do you have any last words, any shout outs, anything else you would like to plug in or mention as far as Ad Infinitum and the new album before we finish things off?
well, just I want to thank you for this time. It was very nice to chat with you, and well, I hope that we will make it very soon to North America and to Dallas, of course.
Hopefully we can do this in person, right? And then we'll talk about when we did the interview during the pandemic and so on and so forth. And when you get here, the first thing I think you and the guys should try is Texas barbecue. I mean, it's one of the most popular. It's a popular dish here in the States, especially for Texas. When they talk about barbecue, it's like, yeah, Texas barbecue. I don't know if you're familiar with barbecue as much in Denmark and Switzerland. I don't know what's the popular dish there. What's like the popular food over there, I guess?
Well, in Switzerland there's a fondue, obviously, with cheese, and Denmark pretty much, like, there's, I don't know if there's the national dish, but I would say anything juicy with tons of sauce.
Okay, so I think that'll fit right in, but I'll go ahead and let you go to your next interview. Everyone who's listening, this is the amazing Melissa Bonny from Ad Infinitum. Chapter 2 Legacy is out now on Napalm Records. You can listen to this podcast on all major podcast streams out there. Don't forget to check us out on interviewunderfire.com. Melissa, this has been great. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to speak with me. We'll stay connected on the socials, and I'll see you next time, okay?
See you next time. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Interview Under Fire podcast. If you guys liked what you heard, please subscribe and share our channel. And please leave a 5-star review, as that helps us tremendously. If you'd like to check out more, visit www.interviewunderfire.com or our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And finally, we want to thank you all for the support you've been giving us. Keep it burning.